The holiday season is a fun, food-filled time for all of us, but for those with diabetes, it can be a tough time. Thanksgiving can be particularly tough since, well, the entire holiday usually revolves around food and lots of it. So you basically have two options. One, skip Thanksgiving, which no one is going to do, or two, make sure that you have a healthy game plan. Joining us now to talk about that second and really only option are medical expert Dr. Jason Shapiro and Chef Ozzie from Heartland Sweeteners. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, glad to be back.
Thank you for having me.
We, of course, have a great spread for Thanksgiving since you're here, Chef Ozzie. But let's talk, Dr. Shapiro, let's talk a little bit about the holidays. If we have all of this food, we're surrounded by food, it can be a particularly tough time, as you heard me say, for those who have diabetes. What are some foods that people who do have diabetes can actually enjoy during the holiday season?
Sure. Well, you know, first and foremost, it's all about moderation, especially during this holiday season. But let's keep it simple. You know, I would start with looking at turkey over ham as the principal source of protein. I see turkey because it's low in fat. It's virtually carbohydrate-free versus ham, which is a fattier protein and typically is cured with sugar-rich products.
Now, if you're going to have turkey, in my house you have to have gravy too. Could you have gravy?
Absolutely. Who can't have Thanksgiving without gravy?
Right.
People with diabetes, with respect to gravy, you know, 1 to 2 tablespoons is appropriate. Gravy is loaded with carbohydrates. A solid or an appropriate alternative to gravy is mustard.
Yeah.
I look at Dijon or an English Coleman's as a very safe, diabetes-friendly alternative to gravy.
Are there any vegetables that people who have diabetes should maybe try to avoid, or at least, you know, eat in moderation?
I would look at green leafy vegetables as diabetes-friendly choice. I would avoid the sweet peas. I would avoid the sweet potato. In general.
The starchy
absolutely.
foods. Okay, well, Chef Ozzie, I'm going to bring you in here because we have some holiday treats that you are the master of making these treats without all of the sugar.
And it's fun.
And it's fun.
Yeah, right.
And tasty.
Right.
That's the key here. You have one of my favorites prepared here without all of the sugar. Perfect for the holidays. Pumpkin bread.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yes.
Now, I got a little tip for this one, too. Now, this is easy. We're just substituting the sugar straight up with Ideal.
With Ideal.
Sweetener. I mean, that's the first and foremost. And then I have another little tip. You know, if you really want to dress it up a little bit, a butter spread or a butter alternative spread, some Ideal confectioners, a little bit of lemon zest and maybe some cinnamon. So you're making a nice little healthy spread for it too. So you're not cream cheese or anything else like that, or butter, you're getting rid of that. So you have a little twist to it.
Yum.
Yeah.
And of course it's delicious and gives you all those yummy Thanksgiving flavors that you love.
Without the sugar, without the added sugar.
Now, when we're talking about, you know, Thanksgiving holiday treats, and he mentioned this is without all of the sugar, in order to avoid, you know, especially particularly those with diabetes, it's really bad for all of us to gorge ourselves at any given time, right? We're not supposed to eat tons of calories and tons of sugar, even if we don't have diabetes, correct?
Again, moderation, especially as it pertains to dessert. I'd say first and foremost, you know, wait 2 to 3 hours after you have your meal. Let yourself digest that delicious meal you had. Allow your body to metabolize the sugar and bring down your blood sugar levels.
Okay, so we should rest before we digest, or rest while we digest.
You nailed it on the head. You know, in a normal person who isn't with diabetes, typically when we have that large blood sugar spike, our pancreas is able to work that much harder to secrete more insulin and bring down that blood sugar level.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in people with diabetes, they don't have that luxury. And as a result, they have a sustained level of high blood sugar. And when that happens over a longer period of time, it causes the body to dysfunction.
Okay, now that's one of the great things that I remember us talking about in the past with xylitol. It's got somewhere around a 7 on the glycemic index, right?
And that's what makes our product Ideal so unique. It's because it's so low in the glycemic index, which allows your body to slowly absorb it so you don't get those glucose spikes.
Absolutely.
So
we talked about it in previous with kids and, you know, getting too much sugar and they're bouncing off the walls. That doesn't happen with our sweetener.
And
that's
so this would be something that's good for someone who has diabetes.
Exactly, yeah. It's great.
I'm going to tell you guys are both brainiacs, and I just said 7 on a glycemic index, and I've heard the language. But Dr. Shapiro, what am I exactly saying when I say that, you know, xylitol, that Ideal, registers a 7 on the glycemic index?
Glycemic index is a good measure of the effect of carbohydrates on our blood sugar. So our goal here is to look for foods that are very low on the glycemic index. These kinds of foods typically will allow the body to very gradually absorb the sugar and allows the body a good amount of time to bring your blood sugar levels down.
Okay. Now, we are talking about all the things that we can cook at Thanksgiving, or we can bake at Thanksgiving using Ideal, which of course will cut some of the sugar out of these sweet treats. I love you so much for bringing pumpkin cheesecake today.
And I got some other little treats. Yeah, this is a great recipe. We're taking out the eggs. We're actually using egg substitute.
Oh, wow.
We're using a low-fat cream cheese, not non-fat, because non-fat will make it really crumbly and dry, so you don't have to go to that extreme. We're using a light sour cream.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know there was sour cream in cheesecake.
Right, and then you can also, in the graham cracker crumbs, they have a low-fat version out right now.
Really?
So you can cut the fat out of that as well.
The staple for every, I think, Thanksgiving, and I think any American holiday, is apple pie.
Oh, yeah.
You've done a great apple pie for us as well.
Very simple, just taking out all the sugar, replacing it completely with ideal sweetener.
Completely.
Simple, very simple.
Now that leads me to my next question for you, because you know I'm not hosting Thanksgiving at my house. No one expects me to cook all of that, and no one would want to eat it if I did. What could I take that would be appropriate for an entire group, maybe some people who have diabetes, some who don't, that's easy?
Easy.
Easy.
That's the key word for you, right, Beth?
That's the key, yes.
Right here. Cinnamon cookies. Very simple.
Cookies.
Very simple. I mean, it's just like your basic sugar cookie. We got cinnamon added in there. We're taking out all the sugar. We're replacing with ideal no-calorie sweetener. And just making standard everyday cookies.
You know, another thing that cinnamon, that could have cinnamon in it, that I love. You know that I love cinnamon. And we talked about this before.
What I use is a Saigon cinnamon. It's got a little bit of zip to it. It's actually got a little spiciness to it. So it really imparts a great flavor in a lot of these items, like these almonds you're talking about.
Like the almonds.
Hey, another thing for the holidays, great heart healthy snack.
And easy.
With no sugar, and easy. So you're getting a great snack that has no sugar in it. Zero.
No sugar whatsoever.
And they're very easy.
And it's a great thing that people could just munch on as they walk in the door while they're socializing.
Kids. Yeah, everyone.
Now, you know, of course, I'm not the culinary genius, so I could do nuts. Now, Dr. Shapiro, my last question is for you. My family we gorge ourselves on all kinds of yummy foods. And then we fall asleep in front of the TV as we watch, you know, whatever football team is playing that day.
Yep.
Probably not the right thing to do, right?
Certainly. You know, I'd say, you know, after dinner, go for a walk. It's a beautiful day. You're with your closest friends and family. Go spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes, walk around the block, work off some of those calories.
That would be a great way to get the 2 hours in
Absolutely.
between dinner and dessert.
Absolutely.
That you were talking about.
Absolutely.
Take the dog for a walk.
Take the dog for a walk. That's a great way. What about if you are diabetic and you maybe have overdone it? What should family members or that person be looking for?
If you are a patient with diabetes and you feel you have overindulged, signs to look for are, you know, you feel very thirsty, or frequently going to the bathroom to urinate, or a headache or blurred vision. These are typically signs of sustained high levels of blood sugar. And at that time, you know, I'd recommend check your blood sugar.
Okay. Well, this has been really informative. You've had all the medical information, and of course, you make my day great because I can eat all this yummy food.
Yes.
You have the greatest recipes out there.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us.
We appreciate you being here. Now, to find out more about sugar-free Thanksgiving recipe ideas and cooking with Ideal Sweetener, check out idealsweet.com, and that's where you can also order a copy of Chef Ozzie's new cookbook, Sweet Revolution.